Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Yin, one-time professional Go player from American and Chinese Go Association.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan and welcome back to our Best Move series. Today I will show you the top 5 best moves in August. So I think most of us have wondered and looked at our opponent's big moil and asked, how should I reduce it and how on earth do I prevent my opponent from making that into territory? Well, today Yuting 9-Dan Professional is going to show us in our first example. So this game is taken from a Chinese league tournament game where Zhang Tao as black is playing Yuting white. So here, after this big fight in the lower left, we have almost an agreement here. So white settled on this pretty nice corner territory here, and although there was could be weak group in the middle. It's relatively strong now, but could be attacked in the future. Well, black is controlling this area on the right. So now black played the next move is this 2-space extension to enclose the right side. So how should white reduce this? And a lot of the time it looks very big, and we know that the stones are relatively far apart, but it shouldn't be territory, right? So Yuting thinks it's not. So what he does is he invades here. And these series of moves are very good, and we can see how he really dissected this territory and really successfully invaded it. So if black blocks here, then when white attaches, it's really hard to capture the corner. So in the game, black blocks on top. So now if white attaches, then when black extends, then white still cannot live in the corner. So in this game, white hanes, hoping black would block. And then when white attaches, this exchange could help a little bit. So in this game, black didn't want white to go back into the corner now. So black chose to kosumi. And if white has to make eyes on the side, it's going to be very, very difficult. So this is time for white's show now. Okay, so white's next move, attach on the third line. So this is a very unintuitive move, I think, right? So we started something in the lower right, and now we're going to the side. So black hanes on this side, and then white hanes out. And now, so we look at this side, and it looks like it's strength. But because black chose to play this move instead, there is a potential move here for white as well. So if black were to stand down and only, for example, take the corner territory, then white would be able to very nicely reduce the side by also weakening black's top right as well. So black, of course, doesn't want to give up anything, so black ataris. When white descends, black ataris again. Of course, now white cannot run the stone because then black would connect. So white counter ataris, forcing black to capture. And then white comes back to what he started in the bottom side and extends out. And now this shape actually is kind of awkward, right? So if black has to block, right? If black does anything else, the corner would be too weak. So if white plays the tiger's mouth, this shape is very awkward for black. So black encloses, but then when white plays the tiger's mouth, now you can see why white made those series of exchanges beforehand. So now if black blocks here, then white could cut. And then black has to escape. And then when white extends, that is also sente because the next move, white could atari. So then black has to protect again. And after those series of sente moves, not only white could atari back here because of the really bad shape, after this being sente, white could live in the corner in one move here. So actually, white has a better move. White could even attach here maybe. Or, sorry, white should probably play here. And then if black blocks, then white would play here. So nevertheless, white can live in the corner very easily. So after this exchange, it created enough weakness in black's right side. So in the game, after black ataris here, white actually was able to get a cutting exchange even. So when black extends, white extends here. When black captured, and then white finally came back to play this knight's move. So white cleverly used a lot of aji, so potential to build, and was able to successfully live in black's point of influence. So we can see here how white really successfully invaded here, which was black's really only major territory, and making these very clever attachments and very deep reading. So now let's look at the second game. In other times when in a fight, sometimes it's hard to find, where are your opponent's weaknesses? Because sometimes when you find your opponent's weaknesses, you can just get them down in one punch. But on the other hand, if you can't, then the fight will go on, and who knows who will gain the advantage. So in this game, Weiqing will tell us how to seize the opportunity to punish your opponent's weak shape. So in this example, we have Qincheng, who is taking black versus Weiqing white. So here, Qincheng played this extension move. Now, this move is very important for this shape because if white were to get this is the head of two stones. So it'll make these two stones a lot weaker. However, black missed a very crucial exchange. Black should have exchanged this in sente to protect the weaknesses in this shape. So in the game, when black extended, white seized the opportunity to exploit black's weak shape. So this peep is actually very uncomfortable for black. For example, if black were to connect, then if white pushed, then there would be no way for black to keep connected. Because if black plays this move, then white could actually extend here. So now, if black keeps extending, then white would be able to cut, and would cut these stones behind off. So that wouldn't work for black. So now, black played this peeping move again. So this is a move to threaten the weaknesses for white on the right side. But now, since white already played a move here, white is able to extend on the outside. Now, after black hanes, white cuts, and black connects. Then white can play here. This is a very crucial move to reduce black's liberty. And black cannot push through on the right side due to that liberty shortage. White could block and atari here. And now black is in big trouble. So black is then forced to extend back. Then when white connects, black is forced to play another move just to extend liberties. Then when white ataris, black is forced to connect. And then white fixes the push and cut over on this side by extending out. And then black comes back to extend. So after these series of moves, white is able to successfully make the right side very strong and get this extension in sente. On the other hand, black isn't even alive yet in this shape. So then after white turns, the fight will be very good for white. So now let's look at a third move. Have you ever been in a situation where no direct move is good for you? Well, sometimes you have to take an indirect approach. And in this game, in our third best move, Peiran will tell us how to use an indirect move to get you out of that situation. So in this game, white just played this one space jump. So in the opening, this is what happened. After white pincered here, black invaded. And of course, white would defend the corner. And then black capped. And white played those one space jump. Now, this is a very interesting move because it kind of, neither of these moves actually look any good for black. And we will see why. So if black extends above, white will just extend back under. Of course, white is all connected. Not very much used for this wall, or not even a wall over here. And if black extends down, that seems like an overplay. And I'm pretty sure it will be after white simply extends out. And these two shapes are very weak. If black just keeps extending out, then white might play a nice move or keep extending. And this wall will be facing two white stones, which are relatively strong. So not much for black to gain in this variation either. So in the game, black chose to attach. So locally, white responds by this move. And then after black pulls back, the Hane move is too big in the corner. So then white is forced to descend as well. So although this makes white is a lot stronger, black is able to prevent white from comfortably extending back. Then black made the Kosumi and then jumped out. So now black has a much more comfortable shape, while it's a much more difficult connection for white. So now we'll look at, damn it. Okay, so I'll just redo that part. Now let's look at the fourth best move. Slaying a dragon in Go is always very risky. However, the payoff is very good. And if you do, winning like that feels really, really good. So in this game, we see Shi Yue slay a very big dragon. However, very, very indirectly. So in this game, we almost are going into endgame. However, we still have this fight in the middle going on. So now, Shi Yue taking black, he pushed. So now, as the white player, Iyama Yuta was he was probably concerned. Normally, white would cut. However, in this case, after black pushed through, white would not have enough territory in this game. The center would be too big, and this group would be fully connected. So instead, white chose to counterattack by connecting. After which, black connects. And now everything happens after is pretty much, there's pretty much no better variation. So let's just all enjoy this complicated variation. So of course black would extend now to cover this group, because this group, you can see, doesn't have any eyes and is being cut off. However, there might be something that's hidden somewhere else on the board that we're not seeing, that Shi Yue has been aiming at ever since this push move. So now he extends here in Sente. White is forced to connect, and then black hanes, white is forced to cut. And now black has to prevent this Atari. So black connects, and then white connects. So the reason why white doesn't block is because white obviously doesn't want this Atari to be Sente as well. And white can't play on the outside because after the push, after the push twice, white's two stones will be captured. So white is forced to make this connection move now, and then black connects this stone on the outside. So now we have actually a liberty race between this group and this white's middle group. So the white jumps out, black extends, white makes the bamboo shape, and black pushes through. So then white keeps extending the liberties, of course, before filling in. You should always try to extend as much liberties as possible. And then white wedges. Wedging is a good way to reduce white's liberties by sacrificing the center stone. So after the wedge and cut, black blocks on the outside, and then white is able to get another exchange in before reducing the liberty of this left group. And now white connects. And also, connecting is Sente for black. White has to Atari, and descend. So we can see now that white only has 3 liberties left. Remember, when you have a bamboo shape, because the exchange is sente, we don't count that in the liberties. So white has 1, 2, 3, and black has the 2 here. However, so now you might think, well, black just died a group and didn't really gain much. But you might look at this top right group. So normally it's actually a relatively strong group, but now, since this is as strong as it can be, black played this move to capture and captured this whole white group in the end. So by sacrificing actually this group, black was able to ensure the game's victory by capturing a dragon on the other side of the board. So we can see really how far Shi Yue has read ahead in this game, and through a very direct result, giving white no chance to play any other variations, takes a game from a leading game to a victory. So now let's look at the 5th and final game. In the recent times, many players feel that perhaps the 7.5 komi is a little big of a burden for black, especially after the AI's way of thinking and the starting percentage rates. However, just playing humans, I personally felt that perhaps the first move is hard to use to take advantage of and actually convert it into 7.5 or 8 points. Now, when you have trouble with that, you should try to initiate some fights. Although sometimes it's not always obvious to do so, you can do so by probing your opponent's shape. And in this game, Park Junghwan shows us in his game against Jiaxi. So here we have a relatively finished opening. So all 4 corners are taken. White has taken territory. Black also has some influence and a little bit of territory as well. So now it's black's turn, and black kind of needs to start something, because later, if everything becomes similar in all the corners and we just take more territory, black is going to have a lot of issues trying to give komi. So in this game, black starts by this attachment. So normally for this attachment, we don't want to hane this way, because a lot of the time, although you capture a stone, it makes black's outside a lot stronger. So if white connects, black ataris, and white captures. So many times we're taught that this result is usually better for black, because black gets sente and black gets very strong on the outside, while white only gets a little bit of territory inside. However, in this case, it's probably beneficial for white to choose this variation, especially because, 1, it makes this shape completely alive, and also this shape is already relatively strong to begin with. So in the game, white didn't play this simple variation, actually. White played this inner hane. So this is a more or less common move to respond to the attachment. And if black pulls this back, then white can probably just jump and settle this group, and things will continue normally. But now black played another move to kind of bully white a little bit. So it's saying if white connects, then these exchanges will probably be beneficial for black. So in this case, white doesn't want to do that, so white extended. So of course, if black blocks on the outside, then white would just capture that. So now white's shape is much better than the first result that I showed. So black, of course, blocks on top. And when white extends, black sees the chance to take advantage of white's weak shape to make this cut. This is actually a very, very good move, even though it's not really obvious. So if white ataris here, black will extend. And now white cannot push out on either side. So now white's in big trouble, because these 3 stones are in a huge net. White will eventually be forced to come back in atari and connect. So, for example, if white pushes, then when black ataris and ataris, white will have to connect all the way back. And then when black comes back, we can see white isn't even alive yet. So white is going to be in big trouble. So cutting is actually a really good move that punishes white's shortage of liberties in this case. So after black cut, white ataris on the outside, then black captures the stone on the side. So although this isn't very big in territory, it takes away white's eye shape. So after white connects and black connects, white then is forced to jump out. And now a fight will begin, and then black can use the strong shapes and perhaps expand this moil at the bottom. So a very interesting way of starting a fight in an otherwise very calm and relaxed game. So there you have it. That's the top 5 best moves in August. So thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give us a like, and feel free to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and I will see you next time.